Throughout my career, I have interviewed hundreds of salespeople, yet only a select few got hired. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what separates those hires from everyone else, and how understanding this very framework could be worth an infinite amount of upside to you and your career. But first, let me tell you about the worst hire that I ever made. It was 2022 and I was leading sales at a fast-growing tech company, and we needed to scale our team very quickly. A candidate walked in with a solid background, several years of SaaS experience, President's Club winner, and impressive numbers overall. Their interview was polished, they said all the right things, and I hired them within a couple of conversations. 3 months later, they were gone. Not only had they failed to close a single deal, but they'd damaged relationships with several key prospects. This expensive mistake taught me something crucial. Hiring the right talent is literally the lifeblood of any business. This failure led me to develop what I now call the IDEAH Framework, a systematic approach to identifying elite sales talent. It's the same framework I personally use today at Closers.io, where we've built one of the highest performing sales teams in the consulting industry. Within this video, I'm going to break down exactly what this framework is, how it works, and most importantly, how you can use it to either hire exceptional salespeople or to position yourself as one. Before I break down each element of IDEAH, you need to understand something crucial about high-ticket sales. This isn't like selling phones at a retail store or even standard B2B software. When you're closing 5- and 6-figure deals within 1 to 3 conversations, you're operating in a different league entirely. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Most sales training will tell you it's all about scripts, techniques, and closing strategies. But after generating over $50 million in sales and building multiple high-performing teams, I've learned that elite performance comes down to who you are, not just what you do. This is where the IDEAH framework comes in. Each letter represents a core trait that I found to be a non-negotiable in high-performing salespeople. The I stands for intelligence, the D for drive, the E for experiences, the A for adaptability, and the H for hunger to learn. Let's start with intelligence. But I'm not talking about your college grades or how many books that you've read. In high-ticket sales, intelligence means one thing: speed of thought. I once had a candidate interviewing for a closer role. Their CV was average, but during the interview, I noticed something fascinating. Every question I asked was met with a response that showed not just understanding, but rapid, nuanced thinking. They didn't just answer the question, they reframed it, added context, and showed multiple angles of understanding. That candidate ended up becoming a top performer. Why? Because in a live sales conversation, especially when you're dealing with sophisticated buyers and complex solutions, your ability to think quickly and to adapt your message in real time is everything. So here's how I test for this within interviews. I use what I call the rapid scenario test. I present a couple of complex sales situations and give candidates just 30 seconds to respond. So here's an example. Your prospect says that they love the solution, but need to run it by their business partner. You know from experience this kills 80% of deals. What do you say? What I'm looking for isn't the perfect answer. I'm actually watching for how quickly they can process the information, consider multiple angles, and articulate a thoughtful response. But intelligence alone isn't enough. That brings us nicely into drive. Drive is not just motivation. Everyone's motivated when things are going well. I'm talking about the kind of internal fire that burns brightest when things get tough. When I was at Twilio, I had a quarter where I was tracking way behind. Most people would have written it off, adjusted their forecast, and made excuses. Instead, I mapped out every account, worked weekends, and ended up closing our largest deal that quarter within the final week. Now that's what you call drive. Here's what's fascinating though. You can actually spot drive within the early stages of an interview. I look for 3 specific signals: how they talk about past failures, the questions they ask about the role, and their energy when discussing challenges. You'll see in some scenarios that hiring managers get this completely wrong, where they confuse drive with desperation. The reality is we're looking for people who have an insatiable will and desire to win, and that's ultimately what truly encapsulates drive. I often like to think about it as people who have a chip on their shoulder, an insatiable hunger and thirst to want to win, that they're going to push forward, march through walls, and whenever times get tough, they're always going to find a way to win. Now let's talk about experiences. probably the most misunderstood element of the framework. Notice I said experiences with an S, not just experience in sales. Here's why this matters. Now, you might be surprised to learn that one of my best closers at Closers.io started her career as a bar supervisor. Why did she succeed then? Because diverse experiences create unique perspectives, and unique perspectives help you to connect with different types of clients. Think about it for a moment. If you've only ever worked in one industry and spoken to one profile of customer, you develop blind spots. But someone who's worked in multiple different industries, lived and operated within different environments, they can adapt their communication style, draw from different experiences to build rapport, and to see problems from different angles. This is why I actually get concerned when I see a CV with 10 years of experience doing the exact same thing. It often means that they may be stuck in their ways and have very limited perspective when it comes to solving challenges. I value candidates with diversity of perspective, and this isn't just related to professional experience. I'm equally referring to personal life experiences too. Let me share a quick story from my own journey. Before I was closing $1 million deals at AWS, I was flipping burgers at McDonald's. Now, most people try to hide these kinds of experiences, but that early customer service experience taught me something crucial about handling pressure and understanding human psychology. But here's the key. It's not just about having diverse experiences, it's about what you learned from them. And in interviews, I always ask, tell me about your biggest professional failure and what it taught you. The answers are revealing. Average candidates give safe surface level responses such as I missed my quota once and I need to work harder. But exceptional candidates, they get specific. They talk about the painful lessons, the mindset shifts, the complete transformations in their approach. I remember one candidate who told me about losing $1 million deal because they were too focused on features instead of business impact. They then broke down exactly how that experience changed their entire discovery process. The level of self-awareness and learning, that's what we're looking for. This is also why I often hire people who have shown a strong ability to bounce back from perceived failures. They've learned lessons that you often can't get from anywhere else, and they understand the real pressure of hitting numbers, how to take full ownership, and what it means to be resilient. Think about your own experiences. It's not about how many years you've been selling, it's about what those years have taught you and how you've applied those lessons. This brings us to adaptability, the quality that separates six-figure earners from everyone else in high-ticket sales. Here's what most people don't understand about high-ticket selling. Your prospect might be a CEO one day and a solopreneur the next. They may be highly analytical or completely emotional, and your ability to read the room and to adjust in real time is everything. Let me show you a bit more about what I mean. When I was at Braze, a member of my team had 2 sales calls back to back. The first was with a former Fortune 500 CMO, very data-driven and wanted to see every single metric. The next was with a startup founder who was all about vision and gut feel. Same product, completely different approaches needed. This is why I test for adaptability in every interview. I'll suddenly change the tone, switch topics, or even create slight pressure to see how candidates respond. What I'm looking for is not perfection, it's their ability to stay composed and adjust in real time. Here are the 3 levels of adaptability that I look for. The first is communication style flexibility, the second is problem-solving adaptability, and the third is emotional resilience. But there's a deeper dimension to adaptability that most people miss. In fast-growing companies, change isn't just common, it's constant. And this is where most salespeople fail. Let me show you what I mean. At a previous firm, I was a part of a team that grew from 100 people to nearly 1,000 employees in just 1 year. I watched salespeople who were crushing it in one quarter completely crumble the next. Why? Because they couldn't adapt to the rapid changes happening around them. The sales process that they'd mastered changed. The territories that they were used to were restructured, and the product that they were selling evolved dramatically. Their quota and compensation also adjusted multiple times. This is the reality of high growth companies. I experienced it at Twilio, going from 400 people to 9,000 employees, And I saw it at AWS as we launched an entirely new product category. And now I'm seeing the same thing at Closers.io as we scale our operations. The salespeople who succeed in these types of environments aren't just adaptable in their sales approach, they're adaptable to organizational change. They understand that what worked last quarter might not work this quarter, and their perfectly structured territory might be split overnight. The sales process that they've mastered might need a complete overhaul. The role itself that they find themselves in might evolve in ways that they never expected. This is why when I interview candidates, I dig deep into how they've handled major organizational changes. I often ask questions like, tell me about a time when your company completely changed direction and how did you handle it? What's the biggest structural change you've experienced in your career and how did you adapt? And how do you stay effective when everything around you is changing? The answers reveal whether someone will thrive or struggle within a dynamic environment. Because in today's market, the only constant is change. Finally, we come to what might be the most important letter in the framework, and that's H for hunger to learn. I'm going to tell you something controversial. I'd rather hire someone doing 50K a year who's hungry to learn than someone doing 200K per year who thinks that they know it all. Why? Because in high-ticket sales, the moment you stop learning, you start dying. The market changes, buyer psychology evolves, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Let me give you a real example. When I joined Closers.io, I had already built multiple successful sales teams. I had won President's Club at several major tech companies. By most standards, I knew what I was doing. But I quickly realized that selling high-ticket consulting services was a completely different ballgame than enterprise SaaS. I had to unlearn certain habits and adopt new approaches. The only reason I succeeded was my willingness to become a student again. This is why my interview process always includes what I call the teaching test. I'll share a new concept or strategy and watch how the candidate responds. What I'm looking for is, do their eyes light up with curiosity? Do they ask intelligent follow-up questions? Do they try to connect it to their existing knowledge? Or do they simply nod along, thinking they already know everything? What's fascinating about hunger to learn is that it's the multiplier for every other trait in the IDEAH Framework. Intelligence without hunger, you get someone who relies purely on natural talent and eventually hits a ceiling. Drive without hunger, you get someone who works hard but keeps making the same mistakes. Experience without hunger, you get someone stuck in outdated methods. Adaptability without hunger, you get someone who can survive but never truly excels. This is why at Closers.io we've built our entire culture around continuous learning. Our top performers are in constant student mode, regardless of their experience level. Now let me show you how to put this framework into action. Whether you're hiring salespeople or positioning yourself for a high-ticket sales role, if you're hiring, here are the exact questions that I use to test each element. For intelligence, walk me through how you'd handle X complex scenario in real time. For drive, tell me about a time you were massively behind goal. What specifically did you do? For experiences, what's the hardest lesson that you've learned in your career and how has it changed your approach? For adaptability, tell me about a time that you've had to completely change your sales approach mid-conversation. And for hunger, what are you currently learning to improve your craft? But if you're a salesperson looking to land a high-ticket role, here's exactly how to position yourself using the IDEAH Framework. First, intelligence. Don't just tell me that you're smart, show me. When you reach out about a role, research the company deeply, identify specific challenges that they might be facing, and present thoughtful solutions or insights. For drive, I need to see it in action. This means following up intelligently, going above and beyond in your outreach, and demonstrating hustle without being pushy. With experiences, here's what most people get wrong. They try to hide their non-traditional backgrounds. Instead, actually highlight how diverse experiences have shaped your approach. Share specific lessons from past roles and connect your unique journey to the role that you actually want. For adaptability, prove it to me. Show how you've handled major organizational changes, demonstrate success in different sales environments, and highlight times where you've had to pivot your strategy completely. And finally, your hunger to learn. This should shine through in your questions about the role itself, your knowledge of industry trends, and your investment in your self-development. Now, let me be very direct. At Closers.io, we're always looking for exceptional sales talent. So if you're watching this and you feel you embody these qualities, then I want to hear from you. Send me a direct message on LinkedIn showing me how you encapsulate the IDEAH Framework in action. Show me your understanding about what we've covered today. But remember, this framework isn't just about landing a role or making a hire. It's about setting yourself up for long-term success within high-ticket sales. Let me share one final story that brings all of this together. Last year, I interviewed a candidate who looked perfect on paper. President's Club winner, impressive numbers, and great companies on their CV. But something was off. And when I dug deeper using the IDEAH Framework, I discovered that they'd never really faced adversity. They'd always had great products, strong brands, and perfect market conditions. Right next to their application was another one from someone else with half the experience, but this person had won and lost complex six-figure deals, role-played highly technical sales scenarios multiple times, consistently bounced back from adversity, thrived during major company changes, and invested heavily into their own personal development. Guess which one became one of our top performers? The reality is, high-ticket sales is evolving faster than ever. The skills that got you here won't necessarily get you to the next level, but if you embody these 5 traits, intelligence, drive, experiences, adaptability, and hunger to learn, you'll always be in demand. This is Alex Elaine, and if you found value in this breakdown, make sure you like and subscribe for more insights on reaching the top 1% in sales. And remember, if you think you have what it takes to join our team here at Closers.io, send me a message on LinkedIn showing me how you embody the IDEAH Framework. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, keep climbing.